today we are going to begin session cookies versus JWT for authentication. So let me begin. So HTTP is a stateless protocol and is used to transmit data. So basically, stateless means that they do not store any data or something, and stateful means that they store data within their servers. So it enables the communication between the client side and the server side, the HTTP protocol. So it was originally established to build a connection between web browsers and web servers. So let us understand this with the help of example. Suppose we are shopping online and we add some items to our cart, like headphones to our cart, or and then we proceed to look further for other items. So during this time, we want the status of the cart to be saved. Okay, so what we do that when we are doing further tasks, so we want the state of the card to be saved somewhere. So this means that we want our states to be remembered during the entire shopping operations, because when you select multiple things, so the cart what all other things are there in the cart has to be remembered. So since HTTP is a stateless protocol, so to overcome this, we use either session or tokens. So the first is session-based authentication. So before the emergence of JSON web tokens, we predominantly used this type of authentication. So what happens in this type of authentication method? The server is responsible for authentication, and the client does not know what happens at the server side after sending a request. So there's a concept called session cookies. So this is a concept of session cookies. This is how it works. Let me share my screen. The cookies that is created in this picture, which I've drawn here, is called session cookies. Okay, so it is deleted when the client shut down, because it doesn't specify any expire or maximum age directives. So as soon as the client quits, so this is deleted. This session cookie is deleted. So it only lasts for a session when the user logs in. So, however, the web browsers may use session restoring, which means that most session cookies permanent as if the browsers were never closed. So, you might have seen in Chrome web browser, that whenever you close any session, the whole session, and you switch off your laptop, and whenever you restart your laptop, and you can restore your session on Chrome. Have you seen that? So this is what exactly happens with the web browsers. So let us understand what typically happens when a user logs in into a website on the web browser. For instance, the user logs in, and the server will create a session for the user, and store the session in the server memory. And there's a session ID created, which is stored in the cookie in the client's web browser while the user performs certain activity on the website. Like in this figure, the session ID is 12345. So this type of session ID is created. The server can then verify the session data on the cookie with the session data stored in the server memory when the user logged in initially. So this is the thing which happens, and when the user logs out from the website, that session is deleted from the database and the server memory. So I told you before that it lasts for only one session. So that's it. So this the session data is deleted whenever the user logs in out of the website. So, and the second is token based authentication. The first was session based authentication, and the second is token based authentication. So in token based authentication, we use JWT. Now here comes JWT, JSON Web Tokens, for authentication. Now, this is widely used method for RESTful API. So here when the user sends a request for user authentication with the login details, so the server creates an encrypted token in the form of JSON Web Token, JWT, and sends it back to the client. So when the client receives a token, it means that the user is authenticated to perform any activity using the client. Yes, so that JWT that is stored on the client side usually in the local storage and is sent as the unique key of that user request of any data from the server or is performing any activity from that website. So when the user is request is received by the server, it validates the JWT token. Okay, so it validates the JWT token for every request that the user sends. So and then the required response is sent back to the user. So this is how the header is sent. This is a header with every request, and the user state is stored in the on the JWT on the client side. So when the user logs out, the token is deleted from the client side. That is local storage. So thus most of the data stored in the client side and accessed directly instead of sending requests to the server. So this is the advantage in the case of JWT tokens. So JSON Web Tokens consist of three parts: the header, the payload, and the signature, and they are joined together by a dot dot operator. So the output contains the base 64 URL strings separated by the dots that can be easily passed in by HTML and HTTP environments, which being more compact when compared to XML based standards such as SAML. So you might have seen the XML based standards. So it's highly it resolves all the that means the code looks more simple than the XML based standards. So JWT has previous header and payloads encoded. So and it is signed with a secret. So in the last class, I spoke you about secret key. So and the last final topic comes that which one is better, cookies or JWT? So to answer that, I would speak of you in the modern applications, web applications. JWT is widely used as scales better than that of the session cookie based because the tokens are stored on the client side, while on the session uses the server memory to store user data, and this might be an issue when a large number of users are accessing the application at one time. So since the JWT is sent along with every request and contains all the user information, even though it is encoded, it is necessary to use the necessary information in JWT, and sensitive information should be avoided. So actually, sensitive information should be avoided in all cases because it might get compromised and it can be encrypted to prevent security attacks. So there's no fixed method to be used at all times. It depends on the developer and the type of requirements to figure out needs to which means which you can use in which scenario. So suppose a scenario comes that you have to use a cookie, then you have to use a cookie, and suppose a scenario comes that you have to use a JWT, so you need a JWT. So for instance, the zero auth uses a specific bearer token and a long-lived refresh token to get the bearer token. So it is better to use a hybrid of both types to create flexibility and robust applications. So I end my slides here. I end my presentation here.